Unfortunately, we live in an environment that has made choices for you, exercised your freedoms for you, and has limited your ability to leave the traces of its cookie cutter. The excuses have little variation. Some say these decisions were already made for you to protect you, and when it isn't that, it's someone else forcing their ego onto you. Take, for instance, the conservative position on abortion. While conservatives are a group of people who prefer small government, they seem to only want the government's boots off of their necks. If the government is to impose conservative morals on a general populace, suddenly big government is no longer the elephant in the room in states like Alabama that outright ban abortion entirely. And it's not just abortion as a policy issue either. It's the steps leading to it where conservatives have a fetish for exercising your choices for you. It starts with education. Instead of allowing students to get comprehensive sex ed, they are instead taught to go on the abstinence-only route, which is in line with Christian conservative morals. Conservatives are also against LGBT education as well, or any sex ed mentioning the subject. In this regard, conservatives have already exercised your academic liberties for you. They are already making the assumption that you're saving yourself for marriage, which, considering how many teen pregnancies happen due to abstinence-only education, is clearly not the case, and they have also assumed that you will not identify as homosexual or bisexual in the future. Moving on to contraceptives, we again see conservatives positioning themselves against another tool that can be used to lower unwanted pregnancies. Christian conservative-leaning companies such as Hobby Lobby reserve the right, due to religious freedoms, to deny contraceptives under healthcare plans with the company. While I can understand Christians and conservatives being against contraceptives to preserve the nature of sexual acts, this is once again them exercising other people's freedoms for them. Now not only do people not have access to contraceptives, but also don't know how to use them due to poor sexual education. Lastly, we get to the results of these decisions made for us: an unwanted pregnancy. You would think that if a conservative made all these poor choices for us, that they would accept the consequence of said decision, or allow us to make one of our own, right? Well, it seems that especially at this stage of things, they show the most hatred towards those who wish to finally make their own decision when conservatives aren't done making them for these people. Considering that conservatives have banned abortions in Alabama, bombed abortion clinics, and set up crisis pregnancy centers that lie to expecting parents to deceptively keep them from aborting, it is painfully clear that conservatives still don't want to give you options. They want to force you to have a child that is the result of their poor decisions and policy, and not give you the option to abort. Many pro-lifers seem to ignore this and go for irrelevant points. Of course, murder is wrong, no matter how young the human life is, but these pro-lifers would rather grip with an iron fist their ability to make choices for you than to accept the possibility that there are alternative steps to be made to keep people from having these unwanted pregnancies. All of this turmoil results from bad policy, but if you think voting is going to fix that, you will quickly discover that the nature of electoralism is filled with components in which your freedoms are narrowed or exercised for you. Before you even get an opportunity to vote, your choices may already be limited. If you're a felon, you cannot participate. If you've been deregistered due to faulty data, it is made harder for you to participate. Live in a populous state? Then you better hope you get to the polling stations quickly, considering they're sparse and many are shut down to suppress minority votes in places like Texas. Let's say you do get to a polling station. You better hope that you're in a district that hasn't been heavily gerrymandered to give an unfair advantage to Republicans. Remember, this is all before you even vote. These are things that happened before you got your ballot, let alone filled it in. What happens when you do cast it? You then have to cast a vote that forces you to participate in the Electoral College, a system where, in most states, there is a winner-takes-all system where electoral votes are not split proportionally based on the people's votes, but instead given all to the winning party. Additionally, in 24 states, they can vote for whoever they choose, having no regulation that strictly makes it so they vote the way their constituents want them to. The result of all these freedoms being limited or exercised for you when it comes to voting are unfair advantages to the Conservative Party and some of the worst voter turnout in the developed world. Your freedoms are not just limited when it comes to voting, and the nanny state affects more minor things like your recreation and what you can do with the little leisurely time capitalism affords you. Of course, mentioning recreation, this next portion is going to be regarding illegal drugs. I've already mentioned in my video what are proxy politics that many Schedule I drugs here in America were made illegal not for public health reasons, but solely for political ones. The brunt of it was that conservative politicians could associate drugs with certain enemies of the Republican Party, and then use this drug proxy to arrest such people. Nowadays, however, the fascist state is forgoing this proxy and outright trying to make it illegal to participate in activities for, or even identify as, an anti-fascist. Regardless of these political annotations, the state has exercised your freedoms when it comes to this issue. Instead of treating you like a conscious being who can make their own choices and assess risk, they've outright banned substances like marijuana and LSD, which both have medicinal uses for things like chronic pain and treatment-resistant depression. Even harder drugs should have some sympathy within the legal system, considering heroin has become more popular due to the recent opioid epidemic, and cocaine use is growing in this country despite it being illegal. Thankfully, states like Colorado, California, and recently New Jersey, Oregon, Arizona, and South Dakota have thankfully legalized marijuana, with Oregon decriminalizing all drugs. However, the drug war still rages on, and it's very expensive for the state to exercise your freedoms in this regard. Banning recreational substances has cost an estimated $1 trillion since 1971, or around $22 billion per year. This creates an interesting cognitive dissonance in some conservatives, as they support the immensely expensive drug war, or at the very least will do nothing to stop it, yet also criticize further left positions on universal healthcare and free college which, while being expensive, help people instead of killing and terrorizing them. Conservatives will support billion-dollar budgets for militarized police and expensive drug wars, but will seldom refrain asking you, how will we pay for it, when policies that help the people are proposed. This is another area in which they've exercised your freedoms for you. If you want an education in this country, your choice is not made based on how much you wish to learn, but instead, how much debt you think you can handle. Your ability to handle pre-existing conditions is more so based on your ability to pay for overpriced insulin or expensive therapy, instead of these things being provided to you free at point of service in a national healthcare system. It's not just that conservatives have made choices for you, but they make it hard to make better choices as well. Flint, Michigan doesn't get to choose to have lead-free drinking water. Diabetics don't always get to choose to get the insulin they need, and students don't always get to choose the amount of education they want. To make the better choice in these situations, you have to accept a hefty financial burden. Healthy drinking water, education, and healthcare are things we all need. These are not facets in our lives that we should choose to have more or less of. When we realize we cannot pay in money to make the better choice, we pay in blood for lack of such choice. Now, upon hearing this, many leftists who know about or have read Manufacturing Consent may feel reminded of its message, that our democracy is staged, that it is more effective for oligarchs to give people the illusion of choice, the illusion of freedom, than to form a dictatorship, especially considering that fake democracy is more coercive and seemingly benign to the propagandized masses. The style of this essay being reminiscent of Manufacturing Consent is not by accident, however, and hopefully after listening to this you will understand these works' similar points. We are propagandized, our freedoms are fake, and the ones we have are exercised for us.